Welcome to our live Philadelphia virtual information and networking session. My name is Katie Masteller. I'm from Summer Associate Hub and thrilled to have you all here tonight with us. If you've been here before, welcome back. If it's your first time in a Summer Associate Hub live virtual series, we're glad to have you and you're in for some great information and conversation. We have a truly all-star panel of Philadelphia attorneys tonight, and I promise it will be content and discussion you haven't heard anywhere else. The agenda will be easy and as follows. We'll have a panel discussion featuring our attorneys from Troutman Pepper and Blank Rome. And after the panel discussion, each firm will host a separate breakout room for those who want to join, ask questions, or listen to hear more about the firm. We'll talk more about the breakout rooms in just a minute. Don't let them scare you yet. I know the breakout rooms always makes folks nervous, but I promise these are good ones. And it wouldn't be a Summer Associate Hub event without prizes and raffles. We'll do raffles at the end of the panel discussion. Some great swag prizes, generously sponsored by tonight's participating firms. You do have to be present to win, and we'll be calling your name out, so be sure not to go anywhere. So first off, before we dive in, a couple of quick housekeeping items. What is Summer Associate Hub? Summer Associate Hub is a free content and resource hub for law students embarking on the 1L and 2L recruiting process. We know from our own experience how hard it is as a 1L to understand what it's like to work at a law firm. And so our platform, summerassociatehub.com, has blog posts, podcast episodes, short video tutorials and exercises, and other content to help you learn about practice areas, locations, and prepare for the recruiting process. We also host virtual programs just like this, where students can learn directly from and network with law firm attorneys and recruiting team members. We've got 2 weeks left in our virtual program series, so be sure to catch one live before the series ends. And if you've missed any of them, all of the recordings are posted on our website, and it is a great resource for students to refer back to as they start the recruiting process this spring and into the summer. The link to RSVP for future sessions will be posted in the chat and in that document we started at the top of the hour with. And so be sure to check out tomorrow night our finance and capital market showcase, followed by our final week next week, which will feature LA and Orange County on March 11th and private equity and fund formation on March 12th. We hope you'll join us live for one of our final sessions. Finally, going back to the breakout rooms, at the end of the panel, around 8:10 Eastern, we'll move into breakout rooms. Each firm will host a breakout room where you can go and ask more specific questions or simply just listen and learn more. The breakout rooms have been a highlight for both students and firms, especially in making early connections as the recruiting season starts to kick off. The firms want to meet 1L students, so please be sure to join a breakout room. And keep in mind, you can move between both breakout rooms. You don't have to just stay in one. The breakout rooms will run until about 8:30 p.m. All right, and so a quick pro tip, reminder on that Word document, download it now for ease of access later on when we get to those breakout rooms. So that's it from me for now. We'll get started with the good stuff, with the fun stuff. But first, over some quick intros of our panel. Both of our attorneys are based in the Philadelphia offices of their firm. And instead of me blabbering on about them, Danielle, let's start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself, your practice, and briefly why you chose to practice in the Philadelphia market?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Katie. Hi, everybody. My name is Danielle Hudson. I'm originally from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I went to college in DC at GW and then law school in Philly at Temple. I chose to practice in Philly to be close to my family. I'm a fourth-year associate, and my practice is a combination of corporate litigation and gaming, which is kind of an odd mix. So the corporate litigation is really just civil disputes over corporate matters, like breach of contract, breach of fiduciary duties, things like that. And the gaming practice relates to sports betting, casino gaming, and horse racing, and is really more regulatory compliance focused.
Great. That sounds very interesting. Joe, how about you?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Joe Kadlec. I'm a corporate partner in Troutman Pepper's corporate. Sorry, I may have said corporate partner. I'm repeating myself. A partner in the corporate group doing mergers and acquisitions work primarily. So what that means is more mature companies that are being bought or sold, either by investors or strategic companies that are adding a business to their portfolio of what they offer. Good amount of those deals can be sell side deals that are family businesses. A lot of family businesses can grow to pretty substantial size sometimes, and if there's no particular succession plan, an exit may be the path for them. And so we do a good number of those as well. I do a lot of different industries, but I have a bit of a focus on healthcare transactions, and the private equity practice, which is investments as well, but buying up businesses and progressing them along. I grew up in South Jersey in Cherry Hill. I spent my high school and college years in Philadelphia, though, including at St. Joe's. I spent my law school years in Boston, at Boston College, and then started my career in Washington, D.C. for 5 years. So I have a little bit of a different view in different cities in the Northeast. Ultimately, was making both a career move and a family move in coming back to the area now 12 years ago, so a while ago at this point. But was also joining a more robust M&A group at then Pepper Hamilton, now Troutman Pepper, from the firm I was leaving.
So great. Well, Danielle, we'll move back over to you. In your practice area, tell us a little bit more about the clients and industries that make up the Philly market, and how does your location in Philadelphia kind of play into your practice specifically?
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, it's really nice to have somewhat of like a local litigation practice. So I do have a few cases that are in other jurisdictions, other states, but most of it is focused in Philly or in Pennsylvania generally. For example, I'm going to trial in Harrisburg in a couple of weeks, and we represent a paper mill that is in Spring Grove, which is kind of in the middle district of Pennsylvania. I also represent like a casino right outside of Philly, in litigation against, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with this, but Pennsylvania skills games. And if you don't know what they are, they're essentially machines that are placed in like lower economic areas that are essentially slot machines, but they call themselves skill games. Anyway, there's like a lot of contentious litigation going on between the casino industry and these skills games, and it's really a big Pennsylvania issue, and it's cool to be on the forefront of that. So yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of it is, look, I'm again a fourth year associate, so I'm really not bringing in the business, but a lot of the business that the clients that I work on, like from the partners that I work on, is based in Pennsylvania or Philly. And, like Joe said, some of it's family businesses. Some of these are just like friends of, the partners, or like people that are in the community that we know and have grown to love. Like one of the cases I was on last year was like a local real estate developer. So it's cool. And then you feel like you really get to know the community.
Excellent, very cool. Joe, how about from your practice? Same question. Tell us more about the clients and industries.
So I work with a number of medium and large size companies in the Philadelphia area, including some food and beverage businesses that I'm sure you've heard of, and some manufacturing businesses that you may not have heard of. I mentioned healthcare earlier as well. Philadelphia really is a strong hub for life sciences in particular. What we mean, maybe just for a minute, there's a little bit of a difference between life sciences and healthcare, at least in the way we talk about it. For life sciences, I'm mostly thinking of drug companies or biopharma, that type of thing. It could be all types of work that goes into that. But that's a big part of the Philadelphia market, and especially with all the hospital down here, and startup companies that are focused on drug production and unique drug research. It's a great place for that. And I actually admit I don't do all that much of that myself. I'm more on the healthcare side. What I mean by healthcare is more provider work. And there are ways to invest in provider networks, the healthcare tech, healthcare adjacent services, so a variety of things like that. So there's a little bit of a slight difference there. I'm more on the healthcare side, and they're all pretty strong in the Philadelphia area. In terms of the private equity that I mentioned, so that's private individuals or wealthy organizations that are pulling funds to make investments. There's a lot of good middle market firms in the Philadelphia area and out in Berwyn. What middle market means, this might sound funny to some of you. but middle market is as low as $20 million for a deal and as high as, close to $1 billion. I still don't know that I appreciate how that's middle market, but that is kind of the world we're in. I've certainly done $1 billion deals, but that's not what I typically spend most of my time doing. And then smaller deals are kind of for strategic reasons, not necessarily our bread and butter. I will say, I think my practice generally is perhaps a bit more national. And I am on the road a good amount now at the partner level. So I'm certainly doing networking events and business development meetings in the Philly area, and that includes Philadelphia, that includes the suburbs, includes South Jersey. But I am on the road a good amount for what it's worth. So, just in the last 12 months, I've been to San Francisco, New York, DC, Boston. I'm going to London next week, and these are all client meetings or business development meetings. So a little bit of juggling there. The pace of life in the M&A world can be a little all over the place and a little uncertain at times. When a deal gets going, it gets going. I'll leave to Danielle if she wants to speak about litigation in that respect, but they're a little bit different.
Right. Moving over to chat a little bit more about kind of the structure of your firms and in terms of office locations and that means different things for every firm. So we'd love to hear kind of the unique perspectives from your individual firms. But Danielle, you are Blank Room is based in Philly.
Yeah.
It is. Sorry, I'm looking at the long run of is based in Philly. So tell us kind of what that perspective has been like working in the headquarters of a big firm, kind of any, differences that you see from your colleagues in outer offices or kind of how that flows at Blank Room.
Yeah, definitely. I love that I work at the headquarters. I really do. There's a few, we have, there's some cultural things, like we have, like a Philly themed lunch coming up this week, things like that, like there'll be cheesesteaks. But a lot of, at least in our firm, like the leadership is focused in Philly. And like when they do have meetings across the firm, like they usually come to Philly. So it's a good opportunity just to meet the people that are like running the firm. I also like have an opportunity to like work on cases with people who are in firm leadership. And I think that's like a very unique opportunity that you necessarily wouldn't get in satellite offices. I have friends, let me just take a step back. Blank Room does a really great job of making sure that we know people in the other offices. Like we have firm retreats and I am close friends with people in other satellite offices. But I do feel very lucky that I feel like I am where all the action is. And, I am on like, for example, like the recruiting committee, and I don't know if I necessarily would have been if I was in a smaller office. Hopefully that answers your question, but
no, that's great. It's very good insight, kind of for the students to hear. Very much. So Joe, you are definitely not in the headquarters now, but maybe before the merger of the firm, maybe you were.
Sure.
But so tell us kind of about what that experience has been like for you.
There's layers to this for me.
That's okay. We love it.
Right. I mentioned that. I lateraled from Wilmer Hale in Washington, D.C. 12 years ago. And when I lateraled, it was to Pepper Hamilton. We called ourselves a national firm, but I think we probably were a little more Northeast regional, admittedly. We went through a merger almost 4 years ago. Well, 4 years ago now at this point with Troutman Sanders, which was an Atlanta-based firm. So, we don't really use the word headquarters so much. Atlanta is our biggest office, though, but Philadelphia and Richmond are the other two biggest ones. We have large presences in California and New York, though, and Washington D.C. as well, and Boston. So we kind of have a lot of different size offices. The chair of the firm is in Philadelphia, though, so there's an element where Philadelphia is still a very key part of the firm, both in numbers, both in terms of key practice areas. For anybody that's thinking about different firms, I think this question of whether you're in the headquarters or the main office or whatever the term is, satellite, other outside office, sometimes it's just as important to think about what groups are where. So, for example, Philly, Richmond, and Atlanta, the three biggest offices, happen to probably have the most corporate people, and so there's a lot of for us in Philadelphia, there's a lot of important players and a lot of important clients. Some of our other practice groups are almost entirely in Philadelphia, or some other practice groups, there's nobody in Philadelphia. Atlanta is where all the power positions are and whatnot. So I think that's important to consider sometimes. But we're a large firm now. We have a lot of U.S. attorneys. Believe we're actually the biggest firm in the country that is only U.S. attorneys. So it's a lot of people to get to know, but the nature of what I do, I regularly am working with different industry groups, and I work with a lot of different associates in different offices. So, we take a lot of pains to make sure we're getting to know people in different offices and work together.
Great. I think your advice about the practice groups and where those are located and then where the folks are located within that practice group is a really good piece of advice to take as for our 1Ls as they're starting to contemplate those different things. Thank you for that. So kind of over talking a little bit kind of about what life outside of work is like in the Philadelphia area for those that may not be at school or living in the area now. Danielle, you've lived there many, many years, but now as a kind of a young professional, where do associates kind of tend to live? Do they gravitate towards one area? Just give us a little bit of picture of what life outside the office is like in the Philly area.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll just be honest, full disclosure, I moved out of the city a couple of years ago, but I did very much enjoy my time in Philly, and most associates live in Philly. As far as where they are, I think that's kind of all over, and it's very much a personal choice, but like I know a ton of people live in Fairmount just because they can walk to the office. Passyunk too is a great spot. A lot of bars, restaurants there. Look, I think it's a personal choice. I love Philly, but we just, we have dogs and we have hobbies that require some space, and we're planning on starting a family. So we moved out and bought a house. But yeah, if you do move out of the city, or at least like in the suburbs, like I live in Drexel Hill, and it's so easy for me to get in and out. And so like I never miss like a happy hour or a function after work. So as long as you're close by, I think you're in good shape.
And for those of us that don't live in the Philly area, obviously me, if you can't already tell, but what is the commute like? And how do you drive? Do you take the train, bus? What is that like for you?
Yeah, definitely. So I drive. It's a personal choice. I drive it, but in the mornings, if there's no traffic, I try to get in early. It's like 25 minutes. It really depends on where you live. A lot of people live in South Jersey. If you're out on the main line, it could take a little bit longer depending on how you're getting in. Joe's nodding his head. I feel like he'll tell you about that. I don't live on the main line, but yeah, God bless if you're going on 76 every morning. Yes, a lot of factors to consider, but worth it because it's beautiful homes out there.
Good. Okay, Joe, over to you. Tell us kind of about how things work for you outside of work.
So when we moved from Washington back to Philadelphia, we were very intentional about where we didn't want to move, and that's why I was laughing. That is a beautiful area out the main line and whatnot, but I was trying to avoid 76, which is a real tough drive into the city every day. So I actually live in Swarthmore, which is off 95. It's pretty accessible by car to get to the city. There's multiple ways to get to the city. That sounds like a silly thing, but if there's traffic in one place, you can go different ways. That's been valuable to me. I can get to the sports complex is pretty easy. I can get to the airport very easily. I do take the train in whenever I go into the city, almost exclusively. We have a regional rail right near where I live. It's door to door, about 35 minutes, but most of that is just sitting on a train, so it's pretty easy. A lot of people from South Jersey can take a different type of train line, but that's available into the city as well. So there's a lot of different options. I don't think Philly's train system has a great reputation, but I really don't think it's all that much worse than a lot of other cities. I've taken plenty of trains in other cities, and it might not cover everywhere the way some other cities do, but I think it works just fine. I don't know as much about where the younger associates live. I know more maybe on average do live in the city, but some of our more senior partners live in the city too. Some people have come back to the city. I think that's maybe what I'm hoping to do. So there's people kind of all scattered around in all directions too. Some people live north, south, east to west of the city. A lot of people vacation down the shore during the summer. That's definitely a thing for all of us. But I, one of the things that I think is really valuable about Philadelphia that we haven't mentioned yet, just geographically, we are really in the middle of a lot of different things. I can get to New York, Boston, Wilmington, DC, Pittsburgh, all very, very easily. So sometimes I'm doing it for work, but it's just easy to get to different places for trips, even fun things. And I love that Philadelphia is kind of in the hub and middle of all of that.
Great, great. Well, maybe we'll stay with you. We'll mix up our order here, going back and forth. And now is your chance to really to start to sell the Philadelphia market to the extent that you haven't already, versus DC and New York. But so kind of tell us a little bit more about how they're different. I think probably the best comparison, or most frequently compared, maybe not the best, is DC and New York. But what, especially given your time in DC practicing as an attorney, tell us what your experience has been like.
Well, I think one thing I would say is DC is a little bit overrun with lawyers. And so, if I would tell people that I was meeting, that I was a lawyer, I'd often get an eye roll. Oh, another lawyer. But it still seems kind of interesting in the Philadelphia area when I tell people I'm a lawyer. So, that's certainly not why I'm a lawyer, but it's kind of a, nice little sidebar. And I think people, DC is a lot of politics, a lot of where you work and whatnot. So I think Philadelphia is just a good bit different than that. It's not as pervasive of who do you work for, what do you do as much. New York is great. I love visiting New York. I'm up there regularly for events and presentations, either speaking or just attending. And certainly have clients in the New York area, but I like to visit New York. It's just a little bit much for me. Not overwhelming. I kind of know my certain areas that I go to, so you can make it small in some ways. But I guess I'll just say that I like visiting and coming back home.
If I could jump in here, I don't have as much experience as Joe
Yes.
does. I was a paralegal in DC for a couple of years before I went to law school, and I agree with a lot of the things that Joe said. I think for me, honestly, I really love the people here. I really do. I feel like this is a thing that you hear a lot, like in DC or New York, the first question you get is like, oh, what do you do? But in Philly, it's like, oh, where are you from? So like, it really depends on, and I don't know if that's true for everyone, it's probably an overgeneralization, but I just really do love the people here. And I do think, and I will say, at least from my experience, like there is more of a work-life balance, at least in the Philly market. And that's just been my personal experience. I do think people really respect those like family boundaries more here. Or maybe COVID had something to do with it and I just came in at the right time. So I don't know. I can let Joe chime in there if he has thoughts. But I will say I know plenty of partners who have, multiple children and it's never been an issue. They make every soccer game, they make every, recital, unless you're like on trial or you're closing, right? Like for the most part, people are very accommodating to those kinds of things. So that's just been my experience.
Right. To that point, it's a matter of, look, we're all professionals in this job. And as Danielle said, if you're in the middle of a closing or a trial, maybe you have to miss something. But for the most part, it's a matter of planning ahead. And it's a matter of making sure your team's prepared, or making sure maybe you're staying up late the night before to get through something so that you can get to something else the next day. And that's just part of being a professional everywhere. And some places probably do it better than others. But yeah, I think there has been a little bit of an element of COVID, more working remotely. I think just the nature that has evolved certainly over the last few years, especially.
As someone from DC, I'm based in the DC area. I can second your Danielle's point about first question is always, what do you do? It's very much the vibe here in DC. It's not something we're too proud of. But one of our attendees made a really great point too, that I'll just share with the group. I don't think not everyone can see it because of our chat functionality, but Philadelphia has a huge plus when it comes to cost of living as compared to New York and DC. I will also agree with that So another plus one for the Philadelphia market.
I will say though, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Katie.
No, go ahead, please.
100%, you're absolutely right. Cost of living is great. The city wage tax, though, is kind of unexpected. So just be prepared for that and calculate it if you are planning to come to, right? It's like 3% or something. I can't remember, but it's higher than I thought it was going to be when I moved here.
See, these are these little tips that you only get at Summer Associate Hub events. No, we appreciate that. It's a good point. It sneaks up on you.
It really is.
Well, good. Well, as we kind of pivot, we obviously we love to hear about our firms and the opportunities within them. But today's law student, they're not necessarily going to stay in the same firm or in a firm at all for all of their career. So we like to kind of talk a little bit about what other opportunities are out there too. And Joe, maybe we'll start with you on this one. As you see folks at all levels, kind of that mid-career and more senior within your practice areas, exit firms, where do they tend to go? Is it to clients? Is it government? What are some of the kind of interesting exit opportunities that you see?
I think particularly once somebody has developed some experience in-house, is an in-house job at a company is often the main area where we unfortunately lose people, but fortunately sometimes people leave. It's just what they want to do. It's a different fit. That's perfectly fine. If they go to a client, that's wonderful. That has happened plenty with us, and it's although I hate to lose people, if they're going to go anywhere, if they go to a client, that's great. Sometimes it's within in people's wheelhouse. It's a client they've worked with a lot, and that's maybe how they got frankly poached, for lack of a better word. But not always. I mean, sometimes people just have they're far enough along in their career, they've shown good judgment, and they go somewhere and kind of do something new. But they've used the skills they've developed at a law firm. Most lawyers at law firms we're juggling a lot. We're juggling a lot of different types of responsibilities, types of different matters, and that's usually one of the things that's most valuable for somebody that's in-house looking for somebody, is somebody that can juggle, can take responsibility, can make decisions, and generally speaking, I think that's some good training you get at law firms. So I because I'm not in litigation, most of my counterparts don't necessarily leave for government jobs, but I know our business litigation or our white collar investigations, whatnot team, they do lose somebody to government sometimes here and there.
Great, very helpful. And Danielle, now that you're kind of at that mid-level associate mark, where are you kind of seeing trends from your peers that are starting to kind of pivot to do different things?
Yeah, and I will say something.
If any.
Of course, no. And I will say something that I kind of wish someone had said to me earlier on. Not that I'm, thinking of leaving or anything, but just that I've noticed that there are not as many like litigation in-house jobs. Just generally, there's just not. It's a lot of like corporate counsel or assistant general counsel jobs, and there are litigation jobs, but the people that I do know that have left, at least my litigation group, have gone in-house, but they've done more of like a corporate counsel role where you kind of become a jack of all trades. And like you said, like we are used to managing with many different assignments. Like I have had exposure to a little bit of transactional work and regulatory compliance work just through like my other sides like of my practice. But I don't think there's as many opportunities to do like the same kind of work that you're doing in a firm in-house. At least that's just what I've seen. So I think that's the only thing I really have to add. I think Joe covered it pretty well.
Great. Well, as we start to wrap up, you guys have seen me kind of drop into our chat different plugs for raffles and breakout rooms. So definitely enter if you haven't. We're going to get to that raffle in just a minute. I know that's why you came, because you do have to be present to win. But before we get to all of that fun stuff, we will do one last question to each of our firms, and we have a little bit of a rule here at Summer Associate Hub for this question. And the question is just a general plug for why somebody should join Troutman and why somebody should join Blank Rome. But it can't be about the people, because everybody says out to people. So see if we can think of something in addition maybe to the people. But Danielle, we'll start with you. Tell us, give us your 30-second plug on Blank Room.
Sure. Sure. And saying the people, not saying the people is a tough one.
It's hard, right?
It is hard. Yeah, no, but besides the people, no. Look, my experience has been that Blank Room really is a place that lets you kind of choose your own adventure, right? So like I said, I do gaming, which is completely different than litigation. And they really care about what you're interested in and let you kind of grow that practice. Another example of this has been like I had a friend who started with me who was in litigation. I'm actually kind of mad that they let him do this. They let him switch over to finance restructuring bankruptcy within like 6 months because I missed him in litigation, but they knew he'd be happier in the other practice group. And so they're like, we don't want to lose you. We just want you to be happy. And like, we want associates who are happy there and like doing the work that they love. And I think that's something that's really special. And, that is my pitch. They kind of let you do what you want and foster like the practice group you want.
That's excellent. Great. And how about you, Joe? Give us your pitch for Troutman.
Sure. Well, I'm still here 12 years later because I've been invested in. When I lateraled, I frankly had this view that I would be there probably a couple of years just before I get settled in Philadelphia and would look for an in-house job. And that just never played out because I enjoyed the firm and to the point about feeling invested in. I was given some opportunities. I pretty early on, I was in charge of a legal clinic that the firm asked me to be in charge of. Not long after that, I got put up for a networking training program that we send somebody to every year. And there's just a lot of different ways that I felt invested in. And even now as a partner, we have a very robust executive leadership program that I'm a part of and done it 2 times now. So the type of training and development that happens from the younger associate age all the way up through, kind of mid-level partner. And so that's been a key reason why I'm still here and I've really enjoyed my experience and always excited to talk about the firm on the recruiting committee and whatnot stems from that.
Great. Excellent. Well, now we'll give away some really cool prizes sponsored by our firms. We'll start with Blank Room. And Blank Room is giving away what we call a summer swag pack. So a backpack, a Yeti cooler, a beach blanket, everything you need to start off your summer right. And so let me pull up my big wheel of names here. And tonight's winner for the Blank Room swag pack is Sophia Blake from Drexel. So Sophia, if you are here, I know the chat doesn't work, but if you just drop your name or raise your hand on the Q&A. Sophia's here. So Sophia, you win. Great. We will be in touch after to collect your information and get that over to the Blank Room team. And then for Troutman, they are giving away a Troutman Yeti and a gift card. So let's see here for our Troutman winner. We have Nicholas Thompson from WashU. Nicholas, if you are here, Nicholas is here too. Look at that. You guys are on it this week. Great. Well, we will also be in touch with you, Nicholas, to collect your information and get that over to the Troutman team. So thank you very much. So as I mentioned, we'll move over to our breakout rooms. I posted them many times in the chat. They'll open up in just a few minutes. Do be sure to join us over there to talk with Joe or Danielle or both. You can switch back and forth, and members of their recruiting teams. They are excited to connect with students and to learn more, and especially as we start up the recruiting season that just keeps getting earlier and earlier. But thank you all so much for joining us again. We hope to see you tomorrow night or next week in one of our final sessions. And to our students, do be sure to check out our website, summerassociatehub.com, to view these recordings and others, especially as you move into the recruiting season. They make great resources to go back and learn more. And to Joe and to Danielle, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And we'll also look forward to connecting with you on another Summer Associate Hub event as panelists in the future. So thank you so much and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you for having us.